welcome back to my channel. I'm Emerald the Quilter. Today I'm going to show you how to make this block. This is the Shortbread quilt block from the Perfect 5 Quilts book by It's So Emma. It's this book here, and this is going to be the 16th quilt from this book, which is the last quilt in this book, and I'm so excited to make the quilt. You're going to make 30 of these using charm squares or scraps, up to you. You can make your charm squares out of scraps, which I will be doing with some, because I've got this lovely stack of leftover charm squares from making the other 15 quilts, and they're just, for me, they're not blending really well, so I've got just a little bit of Bonnie and Camille, and then a lot of patriotic Civil War fabrics, and then some Christmas, which I am having a hard time blending. This one did turn out pretty cute, but I just don't have enough variety to keep it up. So I will be cutting up some more charm squares. Now, I'm also using yardage. It's not what's suggested in the book. You could follow the instructions and then buy your charm squares for your background, but I had almost 5 yards of this and it's really cute. So I've just been holding on to it, and you can see that it's a white on white with little squares inside of little squares. So I had plenty of this. This is gonna work just fine. And at the end of today's video, I'm also gonna show you some quilts that are back from the long armor, which is me. I'm the long armor, and they're right here. So make sure you watch all the way to the end, and let's get started. To make this block, you're going to need your small squares, your larger squares, and your rectangles. You'll need to refer to the book for the exact cutting instructions, and for these here you would like your color or print to be, you're going to get the same size as the larger square, put them together, and the instructions do say, I want to just show you something a little bit different. They say to draw a line down the middle, but what I'm going to do is line them up and then cut it down the middle so that I don't have to draw any lines. And then you'll just sew with a 1/4 inch seam here and here until you have 8. Once you have those 8, you'll have something like this here. You've got your half square triangles, and then you're just going to want to lay them out. And I'm actually I have some pre-cut pieces here. I'm going to lay them out for you so that you can see what it looks like. You want 2 to be facing each other, and then you want your background to be facing each other on the other end. Then you want 2 rectangles here, 2 rectangles here, and then the remainder of these half square triangles are going to have the white, or the background, if you're using a different color background, facing the inside. Once you have your half square triangles laid out, then grab your background rectangles, and I'm just checking to see that my white on whites are facing the correct direction. And then these are going to go on opposite ends. So I picked this cute little pink with maroon dot and then like a Christmas red to go like this. Repeat the same steps on the other ends, and then grab your small squares and add them to the corners. Just like this. And now we're ready to sew all of our rows together. I'm going to start with this piece here, and this is going to be my main row. When we're sewing the center pieces, you'll notice that they line up on the seams because the seams are facing opposite one another. So hold on to them while you're sewing and they'll turn out just right. Now I'm going to sew my rectangles together. I'm going to chain piece as much as I can. Without getting too confused. You don't want to take everything off of your design board or your table or whatever you're using to hold your items and then forget where everything goes because you're like, I'm going to chain piece everything. So I'll take one corner that is supposed to have the Christmas red and another corner that has the pink with maroon dots, and then I'll leave the other half of the block corners alone for now. Okay, and I've got my little cup of leaders and enders that I like to refill occasionally with pieces that are too big for fabric recycling and too small for sewing. And snip these off. I will usually press with the iron at the end unless I feel just like I really need to. And these are going to face with the color in the center of the block. Finger press towards the dark. And these pieces fell to the back, and that's okay. And now this step can be a little confusing because your instinct is to want to make it into a pinwheel. But it's not a pinwheel, okay? I will show you. And it kind of just looks like a mistake. It's not a mistake. Let me lay these pieces down, just finger pressing them. Okay, so you're gonna wanna go like this. Don't do that. That'd be changing the pattern, okay? So they both have to be, see how easy it is to make a mistake? This is where they're both facing the same way, but it's actually, they're facing apart. So you want your colored sides of your half square triangle facing each other and the background sides also facing each other like this. When I first practiced sewing this piece together, I made a pinwheel. It's like, because if you're used to making a block and then you try something that is has a similar process, it can be a little confusing. But just remember that you have two colors facing one another and then your two backgrounds facing one another. Now that that is stitched together, I'm going to go back to these pieces and have the intersections line up, sew them down. And I never did sew the pink one, so I'm going to do one of the pink corners. I'm add my little leader now. And press towards the dark. And remember that the plain white background or your background faces, the square faces the outer corners. And then here, I'm going to just leave this as it is for now because I may press open. So it's just going to go back as is. And this one looks like this. And pop those seams open. Give it a good finger press. And this helps create bumps and skipped stitches when you're quilting. That's what that looks like. And now I'm ready to sew the middle row. So I'm going to sew this to this and this to this. I'll finish this corner piece here, and then I'll sew this last row as well as start sewing the other corners that I left so that I wouldn't get confused. That was my scissors. Okay, so I'm definitely going to open this because I do not think, no, I'm going to press this to the opposite side. It will be okay. Yeah. You could press them all open, you know, if you didn't want to have to think about it. But I was thinking, you know, this might be too much, but there are no corners there. It's okay. You know, you don't have to do the same thing all the time. It's okay to mix it up. I'm gonna grab my leader. And luckily I have these other scissors if they don't also drop on the floor while I'm sewing. These are my little Halloween scissors. They've got ghosts and bats. Aren't they cute? Just use them all year long. And they're so sharp. So that's what those two units look like, and I'm just going to put them back. I'm not going to press these down in any direction yet, right here at the seam. And this one I definitely want to press, because look at that. That is a hefty seam right there. Press it towards the rectangle, and I'm going to grab the other rectangle and sew it to it. And when you have bumpy seams, you should slow down. Lift up your presser footer and keep going. Matching these. And now I'm ready to just start sewing the other corners now that I know there is no chance of making mistakes. And I am winking when I say no chance of making mistakes. Okay, I just want to pause for a moment to see what this looks like. Here we go. You got one row done. And you give one final finger press to these and lay it on the design board. Here is one corner with pink and maroon dots. And I'm gonna, Did I press the other one open? No, I did not. I just made them all face one side. So I'm going to make this one facing this way towards the white square. Locking my intersections, my seams. And I'm going to begin making the last Christmas red corner. And as I'm making this, and I kind of thought this the first time I made the first quilt, it would be really helpful for this particular quilt to decide what all colors you're going to have before you start cutting up your rectangles and your squares, because there's a lot of pieces to this. It's not too many, but there's a good number of pieces, and if you don't want to repeat the same color in the same rectangle multiple times, you're going to want to start, probably pinning them together on a design board. All these pieces are going to go to one block. All these are going to go to another block until you've just got all 30 pre-planned out. Maybe not necessarily, this fabric is for the rectangles and this fabric is for the squares, but definitely that these colors go type of thing. So here is a bottom row, and I'm going to press that towards the inside because I know I have my middle row pressing towards the outside. And I'm going to open these as well, pressing towards the dark. Lock the seams like this. And then I'm going to pin this row to that row. Got 2 in the center, and then I'm going to add 1 on either side as well. This is what the front looks like, and this is what the back looks like. As you can see, I've matched up those seams. Pull out the needle right before it goes under, the pin right before it goes under the needle. I have had in this very lovely machine a pin go down into the feed dogs. It was scary. It was not fun. It did not cause any damage that I could see, and I was able to get it out, but I was like, oh no, and I freaked out. So make sure that you get your pins out. It's only happened once, but when something happens one time, you think twice before making that same mistake again. So this is the last corner, and this has the candy red squares. And I've only got a few seams left to finish this quilt. So you can see once you've got your pieces all cut out, each block goes by pretty quickly. And here's what 2 rows look like together. Isn't that adorable? And I will use the iron to press this flat. And pop these seams open. And I'm just going to make sure that this goes on the top right. And I'm noticing that these seams are facing the same way. So you know what? We're just going to move that one over. No need to make a big deal out of it. And like I said, you don't have to do things the same way all the time. So it's okay if one block, the seams are pressed differently than another block. Even if in the same block, it's okay if one side of the block is pressed differently than the other. No one is going to tell unless they are inspecting your quilt. And to be honest, no one does that, not even the judges, because I've had several quilts judged, and I have never once received any feedback mentioning anything about my seams. So, other than, you know, your points should be more pointy. That they do notice. So I'm matching these seams here. I'm going to put a pin in this one just because it's a little wiggly. And we're down to our last seam. I'm going to press this towards the inside, just like so. And I'm going to pin it in the exact same spots as I did previously. And when we're done with this, I want to show you my scraps. I know I mentioned them the last time, and I do have furniture and scraps also now on the floor that need to go in the furniture, but it's just, I need a new system because I can't quilt consistently, not even every day, and sometimes when I am quilting in a single day or just sewing, that time is like just chopped up, and I need a moment to, you know, recenter myself when I get back in here. And so I'm going to have to think of something different. Maybe like a bin system. Everything goes in a bin and then is sorted into Ziploc bags later, because the Ziploc bags, when you squish them down real good, they don't take a lot of space in the furniture. So I will show that to you. Just snipping off my little leader. And here we go. So before we look at this nice and flat with the seams pressed, and I'm just going to press them all, you know, probably whichever way makes a less fuss. I'll press them open because look, this guy here, it's got that half square triangle. That's a lot of seams. Right here, this is also a lot of seams. So I'll just press these two open and we'll look at my scrappy mess. Here is the furniture piece that is right in the corner outside of my studio, and that is an embroidery machine that I am intimidated to learn how to use, but I will learn how to use it. I will. And the furniture piece is wonderful. It was gifted to me by my friend, and it's got some other items in here for a different machine that I have, which is a circuit cutter type of thing. And in here is nothing but scraps. It's extremely heavy, and I've, whoops, gone in and out, and sometimes get lazy and don't zip them up. And then also Ziploc bags, some of them are breaking because I overstuffed them. I can't do that. But like here's like basically all blacks. Here's blues. This one is definitely overfilled. Here's an extra Ziploc bag. Here's orange. Here's red. And all of this uses, you know, low volume and really crazy volume pieces. And all of these used to be in my little drawers that I had. I had bought that drawer from Amazon so long ago, I don't even remember. And this is, you know, turquoise and teal that hasn't been filled up quite yet. But I have so many scraps. I could probably make, I don't know, depending on the size, easily 5 huge quilts just from this. And, you know, because some of the fabrics I've used over and over, I get sick of them. Because back in the day when I started, I used to buy extra of everything because I didn't realize that some patterns already accounted for a little bit of extra for as far as, you know, if you make a mistake. So I got a lot of scraps, and so that's why I want to incorporate some of these colors into the gingerbread quilt so that it's just more colorful. And then I'll bring you over to my little mess on the floor. So this is a mess under the table. This is my son's spot. So he colors and sometimes does his homework under there and plays. And so this used to be my scrap system. Everything fit in here. I used to have, you know, one brand, my favorite brand ever from my very favorite designer up here. And then reds, orange, yellows, greens and blues, browns and blacks and whites. They're just, you know, and it doesn't all fit. And you can see that it's on the floor because somehow, and I just feel like I don't even quilt all that much. I just go make scraps too fast. And so I've also received and purchased just a few, okay, just a few, some more rulers. And so now this is my ruler drawer. This is my paper drawer, so I've got, you know, triangle paper, all kinds, foundation paper, all kinds. Here are my labels. I didn't realize I had so many labels, but I'm going through them, especially now that I know they're all in one place, because they used to kind of be like everywhere. I was trying to keep things with like designers or by color, and that was not working. No, I just need labels all together. So here is my crochet or little like embroidery stuff. Not crochet, cross stitch stuff. And then down here, this is my favorite brand. And then these two, I just haven't dumped them on the floor yet. But look at this, this is not. And then I realized today that there are some brands where I may want to save the scraps and not make necessarily a scrappy quilt out of like all of them, because I've accidentally started saving them from another project into this little plastic bag, and I'll grab it for you. And it's like, oh, well, I should just keep putting them all in that bag since it's not like a whole lot. And because it's like a fancy bag as opposed to like a Ziploc bag, I will always remember that these are that brand. And so I'm going to try this. I don't use too much of this brand. It's going to work, and I will find a place for it. For now, it is there. So, yep, I've got a lot of scraps, and I will make it happen. And also, here is one of the quilts from the Perfect 5 Quilts book, and it will be going on the long arm this weekend. So, quite a bit of things to show you, and I hope that, you know, you're inspired to also use your scraps. So I'm wondering, how many of you have more scraps than me? I bet some of you do, and you're laughing at me. thinking, oh, that's not a whole lot of scraps. But you know, to me, it's a lot of scraps. It's the most scraps I've ever had, and I know the problem is only going to get worse. So it's a great incentive for me and for you if you have a lot to use them for this quilt. So here is the block that we made today. It turned out really cute. Here is the back. And I noticed I pressed the seams just a little bit different on this one. It's gonna be okay. Here they are side by side. And if there's anything I could change about the blocks, it would be this one. I wish I hadn't used this brown, but you know what? It's gonna stay in there. Also because like the flowers are facing, they're almost in the exact same spot and facing the same direction. It'll be okay. They're cute. And once they're just all around the quilt, it won't be noticeable. Or if it is, I don't think it won't be that noticeable. And I can always remake another one. This could go on the back as a label, you know, and just sign my name somewhere in here because I do like adding labels to the things that I make. So now I want to show you these quilts. This one here was on the long arm the last time we sewed together. And I just did my trademark, which is swirls. And I quilted on flannel, which is new for me. I had never quilted on flannel before. Here it is. It's really big. I know I can't even get it in the whole video. Isn't it darling? It's so cute. Here's the flannel. The flannel is also a gift from one of my friends. So thank you, Anita, so much for the flannel. It'll be nice and cozy. And here's the label. My sister has a cat, so I thought it'd be cute to put a label with a cat. Isn't that adorable? And it's flush. You can see it's sewn in. Okay, it's sewn into the backing. That's my favorite way to do it. My lazy way is, or I don't have enough fabric to do it this way, is putting it on top of the backing, which is actually what I did with this one. So with this one, I was just about to cut, you know, parts of the fabric of the backing off to then do what I did with this one, which is have a big chunk on the top, you know, 2 strips around the label in the middle, and then a big chunk of the same fabric on the bottom. And I'm like seconds. It was like, oh, I'm not gonna have enough. And I really would not have had enough. So what I did was I cut the backing in half, and I sewed it together, and then I added the label on the back, which is not horrible, but it's also not fun because you can see that it does stick out by a little bit. You see that? You can hear it for sure if you can't see it. Okay, so you hear that. And it does get bumped onto the ruler base of my long arm machine. And it's just a little bit thicker. I find that to do this, I like to use the exact same fabric that is on the outside because I am just not very lucky with using interfacing. I can almost always see somewhere and just a little bit of the white when I use the interfacing for it, and then that's no fun. Like sometimes I'll just color it with a Sharpie just so that it won't show, and I don't know. I just tend to like this way. If you pin it in place, it doesn't move when you're sewing it down. And here is my attempt at relearning. Prior to having a long arm, I used to use my Jazz 2 because it had a very long neck, and I used to do swirls and these pretty like daisy type of flowers, and I could not do the flowers on here, but I have relearned how to do them, and so this is my first attempt. And I think I did pretty darn good. I'm proud of myself. It's so pretty. There's not too many flowers, but it really needed flowers because this quilt has bees all over it. So, yay! Love the border. Turned out very nice. This might be one of the only purple quilts that I have. And this I finished actually earlier today, and I got the quilting idea from Facebook. This is a Joanna Figueroa quilting pattern back from when I used to get their mini box of bigs. I did that for 1 year, and I did it on the best year because it was all the mini patterns. And look, it's so cute. And so here's the quilting. Here is my label on the back. And so I saw that she had done this on a different quilt, and I was like, I have to do that too. So there you have it. Some really cute quilts, really cute quilt blocks. I have to make 28 more. Remember that you need 30 of these, and then in the next time we meet, we'll add I think we need some sashing, definitely some borders, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have fun quilting. Bye.